If you live unfamiliar with your dreams, you'll die unfamiliar with your dreams. Dreams aren't just nice ideas, they're fuel. But here's the secret. The more familiar you get with your dreams, the more your subconscious begins working in your favor. Welcome to the Cody Hoffine Show, where entrepreneurs come to grow their businesses, their impact, and their life. I'm Cody Hoffine, and each week I share lessons I've learned from building my own businesses, along with conversations with people who've been in your shoes. Together, we'll talk about the habits, the systems, and the mindset shifts that create real momentum at work and at home and help you build a life and a business that truly matters. So let's dive into today's show. So guys, when I talk about this dreams aren't about sleep. It really is about vision. If you live, again, like I said at the beginning, if you live unfamiliar with your dreams, you'll die unfamiliar with your dreams. So Cody, what do you mean when you say this stuff? Dreams are the what. Clarity is the how. So we're going to talk about the what. Dreaming big, dreaming without limits. Let me give you an example. Me and my wife, 2010. So we're talking some time ago, 15 years ago. Me and my wife, we are completely broke. This was the beginning stages of entrepreneurship. I was just starting an insurance agency of all things. And as I'm doing this, it was so hard, right? Because every policy you sell, whether it's a home policy or an auto policy, you're just getting 10% commission. So if you sell a $500 home policy, you're getting $50. You've got to sell a lot of policies to make good money in insurance. And so as we were doing this, it was long hours during the week where I would be gone 40, 50, 60 hours a week trying to sell insurance. You guys, at the end of year one, I made $19,000. Just to put it in perspective, 2 kids at the time, a mortgage payment. Now, other than that, we had no car debt. We had nothing because we bought a $1,000 Civic and a $2,500 4-screen minivan of all cars to make this work. With entrepreneurship comes sacrifice. Guys, we sacrificed. But I just wanted to paint the picture how bad it was. We did not make enough money. So on weekends, we always wanted to make sure that we were still going on date night. Me and my wife, we called my mom, and she was the one that would always, and if I choke up a little, it's because just recently, within the last few years, I lost my mom to cancer, and it's still so hard for me. But my mom would come over. So this is back a few years. She'd come over and watch our kids for us. And she would assume that we were going to dinner, that we were going to go spend the night, maybe going to the movies, going to dinner, having an incredible night. But the truth, guys, is we didn't have money. And I didn't want to ask my mom for money. I didn't want to ask people for money. And so what me and Wendy would do, we'd hop in that $1,000 Civic and we would drive around the corner and we'd just go to a local park. And I remember this like it was yesterday. We'd park the car, and we did this for 2 reasons. We didn't have money to go out to dinner, but more importantly, we didn't have money to just sit there and drive around either, to just put gas into the car. We had very, very little money, and we wanted to be good stewards of the little money that we had. So we parked at this park, and we'd get out and we'd just hold hands and go walk through this park and dream big. Sometimes tears were shed as we were sitting there wondering how we're going to get through these times. But this night was special. This night was different. We were walking around, we're holding hands, and we were just dreaming big. We were dreaming without limits. Now, guys, no one coached us how to do this. No one told us how to do this. So this is something that was pretty profound, what took place because of what was the result because of this night. We're sitting there and we're just talking about, hey, when we win, and we're just talking like hypothetically, like as we win, other people are going to win. And as we win, we'll be able to upgrade our home into a home that each one of our kids and future kids that we're going to have will have their own bedroom, and we're going to have a car that actually works. Guys, this $1,000 Civic, no joke, the front bumper was held on with baling wire. And so I was driving down I-15, and I remember this bumper like detaching and almost taking out the car behind me. No joke, guys. This is how bad these cars were, but it's what you did. You just do everything you can to be a good steward of the money. So we're thinking about what it'd be like to have a nice car, and we're just dreaming. We're just talking about, hey, and as we make money, and what does our bank account look like? And we were just finding like happiness. Even though we were so broke and had no money, we were still happy. We were still finding some joy just by having these conversations, even though none of it was real. We didn't have a nice car. We didn't have a nice home. We didn't have a padded bank account. So one thing we did that was pretty special that night, we knelt down, we said a prayer, and we said, hey, God, as we win, when we win, we want you to know that we're going to commit to you that over and above our needs, we're going to use that money to bless other people's lives. You guys, this has been a commitment that me and Wendy have stayed pretty dang tight to and have held near and dear to our hearts, but more important, have kept the commitment. A few days later, hear this. This is where it gets interesting. My brother-in-law, Wendy's brother, was going to go serve a 2-year church mission for the church we belong to. So he's getting ready to leave, and he has one item that he still doesn't have, and that's a bike. And they need to take a bike. Now, guys, these church missions, they're not paid for by the church. They're paid for by you, whoever wants to go on that mission. During that time, it happened to be her parents were going through a bankruptcy. And so it didn't work where they had much money to put together for this mission. Everything was all paid for. They did everything they could. And what was left was a bicycle. Me and Wendy looked in our bank account. The bike cost $500. We had $600, guys, $600 in our bank account. And I looked at Wendy and we both just kind of, smiled, and we both already knew what each other was going to say. And we said, let's do it. Let's give this, let's pay for this bike. So we wanted to prove to God we'd be willing, even when time was tight. We take this $500, we go buy the bike. We have $100 left in the bank account. Here's what took place. Next few days, I'm sitting there at work. An individual walks into my office. He says, hey, I was walking down the street. Gosh, I get chills when I tell this story. I was walking down the street and I saw your sign and I want you to quote my insurance. And I said, okay, what do you have? Thinking like home and auto, right? He's like, well, I've got this commercial business and it's a pretty big business. I would like to get this quoted. Do you have time? I said, I'd love to. I have time. Yes. Come sit down. Now, guys, here's the honest. I'd never quoted a commercial insurance policy. Now, do I have access to it? Yes, I had access to it, but I'd never quoted one, never got into that game. So I told him up front, I said, hey, just sit down. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get the underwriter on, and she's going to kind of just walk us through this whole entire process so that you know exactly step by step, because I've never really done a full commercial policy. And I was just upfront and honest with him. I said, are you okay with that? He says, totally fine with that. So I said, but it's going to be fine. We're going to have the underwriter on. She's going to walk us through it. So I go through and I quote this policy, and the underwriter's like, now click this, now click this, now do this, now do this. And so she's live on the phone. It's on speaker. He can hear her. And we put together this quote. Takes about 30 minutes, and he's sitting there totally fine, like, yep, this is great. And then at the end, you push submit to get a quote. And the quote comes back and it says $20,000. And I'm like, holy smokes, I've never sold anything like this. I only sold $500 policies and maybe $1,000 policies for autos. So I turned the screen and I said, based off everything we just did, here's what it looks like. It's $20,000. And the individual looks at me and I don't know what to think. I'm like, oh, is he going to take it or is this way too high? And he says, you know what? I love that I was here with the underwriter. I'm grateful that I was able to hear all that. This has more coverage than my current policy. It has things that I've never even heard of, never seen. And more importantly, you're drastically less than my current policy. And my eyes are just like, wait, what? And we end up, he says, let's go with this. I want this policy. Now, guys, here's what's cool about this. On a commercial policy, they pay you 20% commission on the first year. So that one policy paid me $4,000. You guys, I remember sitting there and just crying, just tears coming down my face as I called my wife and I'm like, Wendy, you won't believe this. You absolutely won't believe this. This guy comes in and it's not a coincidence. This is directly tied to the $500 we put out towards the bike. We didn't have a ton of money, but we were willing to bless someone else's lives. And look at this, the law of the harvest, it came back tenfold. We just had some happy tears on the phone. It was such a special, special moment that we learned from this simple story of just serving people and wanting to touch our dreams and get bigger and get better. The other thing we would do, we would go around to, in Utah, they call it the parade of homes. So I want you to think of, I don't know what it is in every state, but all these home builders will build these gorgeous, big, beautiful homes. And every year, once a year, they put out what's called the parade of homes. You buy tickets and you walk through these 20, 25, 30 homes, and you have a week to go through them and you get to walk through them. Me and Wendy would go to these parade of homes because we were always thinking big. We were always dreaming big. One day we're going to make it. And so we want to be able to think about what does it look like? And we'd go touch our dreams. Someone remember this. If you are unfamiliar with your dreams, you're going to die unfamiliar with your dreams. Get familiar with your dreams, touch your dreams, do things that will allow you to dream big and actually see it, experience it, feel it. We would go to these parade of homes and we'd walk through these homes. and just start to get familiar. And I remember the first time we walked through these homes, it was very unfamiliar. It was very almost like, ooh, I don't know if I belong here. Like my body had this like almost like a feeling of like rejecting exactly what we were doing. Like I wanted to walk through this house, see what it'd be like to learn this house. And instantly my body's almost like, oh, you can't afford a home like this. You couldn't do that. Man, this is way too big. And you almost start to be like throwing out words like, why does someone need a home this big? That's how uncomfortable me and Wendy were the first time we walked through these homes. Then you'd walk through more homes and it'd start to get a little bit more familiar. You'd start to like actually look around and see things. You wouldn't feel uncomfortable and feel like, oh, we shouldn't be in this home. You started to be like, oh, let's see, what's this? And you'd look at the appliances and you'd open up the refrigerator and you're like, oh man, that is a cool fridge. I didn't know fridges do that. Ours doesn't do that. And you're just starting to get familiar. And we did this for years. The next year we'd go to the parade home. This time I didn't feel like, oh, I can't do this. Oh, I shouldn't be here. We got a little more familiar. We knew what it felt like to just walk through the home. The first time I remember looking like, oh man, are the agents here watching us, looking at our every step and move? The next time is like, no, I own this house in the sense of like, I'm walking around. I don't care if people are looking at me or not. I'm like touching the appliances. I'm like in the master bedroom, like, oh man, how cool would it be if a master bedroom was this big? And then the master bathroom, like, holy smokes, I had no idea master bathrooms were this big. And this is what we did for years and years. And we just got familiar with our dreams by simply walking through the homes, actually touching those dreams, not just writing it down, physically going through the homes. Guys, if there is a car that you want, I would suggest go to the dealership. Maybe that first time you're going to be uncomfortable walking in that dealership and you're like, oof, I've never owned a car like this. I don't know if I'll ever own a car like this. And it's very uncomfortable. And you're like, oh, are they going to look at me and judge me saying, a guy like you're not going to afford this car. You might have all these real emotions, these real feelings come up. But then as you go again to that dealership, visit it the first time when it's closed and there's no car salesman, and just walk the dealership, just walk the parking lot, touch the car. Next time, go visit it and say, hey, can I take it for a test drive? Get familiar with it. Maybe what you do, and I love this, is Turo. There's so many people that buy these cars that probably can't afford those cars, and so now they're on Turo. I would set a goal. Hey, when I do X amount of sales, I am going to rent this car on Turo and rent the car for the day. Touch your dreams, get familiar with your dreams. And as you do so, guys, what you're doing is you're training your brain, you're training your subconscious to go out in your behalf, to go out and find these opportunities that exist all around us. Let me put this in perspective. As you think about your dreams, as you think about this subconscious going out on behalf, have you ever been to a restaurant? You're sitting there at the restaurant, you're having a conversation maybe with your significant other. You're sitting there, maybe you were there with your family, and all of a sudden you hear someone 5 tables down say Cody. And your whole, like, I'm here, I'm at this conversation, but someone says Cody 5 tables down, my head does whoosh, like just instantly turns to the individual where I heard the name Cody. What's interesting is your subconscious is like, hey, someone said your name. Because had they said Tyler, had they said Jim, had they said Sally, I wouldn't even have heard it. But the fact that they said my name, my subconscious says, hey, Cody, someone just said your name. I turn, I look, I realize they're talking to a different Cody, someone whose name happens to be Cody as well. But my subconscious went out in my behalf. Why? Because that name is familiar. This is the same point I want you to make. I remember when my wife was pregnant with our first child. In fact, every child that we have 4 kids. Every time she was pregnant, whenever we'd go out and about, let's say on date night, she would notice all the other women that were pregnant. And she'd say, gosh, there's a lot of women that are pregnant right now. The women that were pregnant were probably there every single day. But because she was pregnant, her subconscious was also pointing out all the other individuals that were pregnant. Is it that more people happened to be pregnant when she was pregnant? No, probably the same number. It's just her subconscious is going in her behalf and helping her see all the other women that are pregnant as well. Same thing when it comes to driving a truck. I wanted a black GMC Duramax. I wanted it so bad, right? And so what I did is I go down, I purchase a truck. As I'm driving home, I notice there's like 10 or 15 on the way home. Like, wait, I thought I was going to be the only one that had the black Duramax. It was only going to be me. But now my subconscious was like, hey, there's a black Duramax. Hey, there's a black Duramax. Hey, there's a black Duramax. And they were everywhere, right? This is what I'm talking about. When you get familiar with your dreams, you touch your dreams, as you dream big, as you write these things down, you're also training your subconscious to now get familiar with it. The first time you might reject it. The first time you might feel a little bit awkward, a little bit more uncomfortable. But as you continue to touch those dreams, as you continue to get more familiar with it, you train your subconscious to no longer reject that opportunity, but start to find and look for those opportunities that are already out there, already surrounding you right now. But you haven't trained your subconscious to go out there in your behalf to show you those opportunities that already exist. My hope is that you're starting to see that dreams really do matter, that taking time each day and not just simply writing them down, finding ways to touch those dreams. As you do those things, guys, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna wake up this subconscious. Yes, at first it might be a little bit uncomfortable, but as you get more familiar with it, as you write it down again, as you go to the dealership yet again, as you walk around those neighborhoods that you want to live in one day, as you get more familiar with it, you start to get more comfortable and your subconscious starts to get more familiar with it. And each and every day as you go out and about, just working, doing your normal daily tasks, not just you, but your subconscious will be there to support you in finding all the opportunities that are already readily available and already surrounding you, to point them out so that you can simply act upon them, so that you get one step closer to making that dream a reality. I need to invite you to do something. This is an action podcast. This is something where I need you to become a better version of yourself because you've listened to it. I want you to write down some dreams. I want you to take time. I would do this, you could do this by yourself, but I'd also do this with your spouse. If you're married, do this with your husband, with your wife, right? Take time today to write down a specific goal, a specific dream, and do this without limits. Don't think about like, oh, I have $10 in my bank account, I want $15 in my bank account. No, without limits. If you have $1,000 in your bank account, I want $1 million in my bank account. Dream big, no limitations. Don't dream about who you are today. Dream about the 10.0 version of you. What does that person want? What home does he want to live in? What car do you want to be driving? These are the goals I want you to write down. And what I want you to do is I want you to act upon one of those dreams today. Don't wait till tomorrow. Train the brain from the moment you get inspired to say, hey, I want this car. Train the brain, close the gap, so that you act upon that inspiration, that thought that came to you today. Act upon it now. Write down a goal, write down this dream, and I want you to go touch it today. So if there's a specific car that you want in the future, I want you to go to that dealership today, and I want you to walk the parking lot and go get familiar with that car today. If there's a certain neighborhood that you really want to live in one day, I want you to drive up to that neighborhood, park your car, get out, take a walk, maybe even take your dog if you have one with you, put it on a leash, and walk that neighborhood and start getting familiar with that neighborhood. Take the time today to act upon one of those dreams, touch it, get familiar with it, and as you do so, you start to find more opportunities, more ways to actually make this a reality. In closing, guys, dreams are what fuel us. If you feed them, they will grow. Get familiar with your dreams and they'll get familiar with you. Now, if this has been a podcast that has inspired you, has motivated you, and helped you learn something more about dreams, that they really are valuable, that they really are something that pushes us, that fuel us to actually make this a reality, what I'd love you to do is not only subscribe to the podcast, but leave a 5-star review. With those two simple actions, it allows this podcast to reach more individuals and break through all that algorithm stuff that happens with podcasting. Also, take time to share this with someone. If there's someone that has come to your mind as you're listening to this and that one person came to your mind, please do that individual a favor. Send them this podcast so they too can start dreaming big and accomplishing the goals of their life. Thank you so much for being here today, and I'll see you on the next episode.